So we're going to have one last question, and after that we're going to have some time for a more conversational format, if anybody has any questions. So this question is going to have two parts. First of all, I would like to know, and I would like to know the opinion of all three of you on this one, whether or not this Western European cultural identity that we are all embodiments of one way or another, if this identity clashes with the African identity, and this might matter to somebody who wants to study or who wants to work or even just visit the country, whether it is going to be easy to both get along with natives in the continent, as well as if they want to plan something longer term. And to this, the second part of the question is whether or not there is something we can do if we want to go there, if we want to study in Africa outside of what you've already mentioned, emailing African universities, for example. Are there any other steps that we should consider?
So first of all, I'm pleased that the Hungarian government has offered a few thousand scholarship to the developing countries, but I think this initiative is very, very modest. So if I was in the shoes of the Hungarian government, I would invite, let's say, 15,000 young people and 5,000 from Africa. Because you may ask the question, who will finance it? So first of all the money you have to invest in the education of foreigners, this money will stay in the Hungarian economy. So, and there is a room in the Hungarian educational system. I don't know how many Africans.
There is no money for the Hungarian education itself. So
yes,
I don't know how will you finance it.
But I think it's a question of will. So you mentioned 3 billion forints are devoted to the ODA, the official development assistance. So it's a shame, frankly speaking. It's a shame. I know that in this country, in Hungary, in our country, that poverty is growing every year. So it's not easy to convince the population why we are helping, we are providing assistance to
it's an obligation of being an EU.
But it's concerning education, I would have much more ambition. So we could invite much more people from Africa, not only maybe we have 200-300, not more.
But even they don't come, so that's the problem.
And there is a competition for in many countries. There is a competition for.
Would you give us the figure? How many Africans can we find here at education?
There is another side of the coin which is also very important. So what we talk about, like Stipendium Hungaricum, this is exclusively the scholarships coming from the Hungarian government on Hungarian money, the money of the taxpayers. But there are a lot of other Africans coming here on their own money, really. From Nigeria alone, more than 1,000 students who are paying very big money, less than in the US or in the UK or wherever, but still, which is very important for the Hungarian universities to maintain their level. A lot of students coming from other African countries. So I would say that at the moment, approximately 3,000 to 4,000 Africans are studying in different Hungarian higher educational institutions. Definitely the vast majority is on their own cost, but this is good. That means that they still find the Hungarian higher education system attractive. The diplomas, the certificates are well enough to work wherever in the world, so that's very important. Of course, I would only agree with you that we should give 15,000 or more scholarships, but who will pay? This is the question, yes. But coming back to your own question, I think that with the global world, with the globalization, and this is the major source of our global policy, global opening policy, the cultural, civilizational challenges, differences between countries, between continents are much less than before. You see the internet, the Facebook, tweeting with the South African or with the Chinese, with the Peruvian, so you can come much closer and much quicker to close to other nations, other civilizations. That's why I don't think that if Hungarians, let's say, students, go to study in certain African countries, and if they are well prepared, they will definitely very quickly integrate in that society. And I should tell you that with these bilateral agreements between countries, educational agreements, we are not only offering scholarships and offering higher educational services to African countries, we are speaking about Africa, but we are trying to get some scholarships and places in African universities for Hungarians. It is going on with South Africa, with Angola now lately, to Nigeria. Of course, you should see that this continent, which is not anymore the hopelessness, the continent of the hopelessness, but still a continent with a quite big number of conflicts, a quite big number of problems. It creates a kind of cautiousness where to go. You should see, you will not go to countries where military conflicts are going on. Unfortunately, this continent is more vulnerable. That's why once you decide to go there, you should be really very cautious and prepared for it. But we encourage Hungarian students to go to Africa also.
But you have to add something to all these facts, and this is the difference in mentality. While arriving to Africa, and you contact an African guy, they will immediately remind you. European usually has a watch, African has a time. This is why I don't wear the watch. We have time. So you have to be patient. You have to understand them, the tranquility, which is sometimes really embarrassing, which is really sometimes pressing us. I took my eldest son with me a few years ago on a ministerial visit. We had an invitation. And when we arrived, the protocol waited us at the VIP section of the Conakry airport. Then they placed us in a hotel. One day passed, there was nothing. Second day passed, there was nothing. Of course, we visited our friends. We got some fishing, some touristic engagement. But there was no official sign they took me serious. My eldest son knocked me and said, "Father, we spent thousands of forints. We came here and you leave this?" I said, be quiet. We have still 2 days left. And the last day morning, when we were already packed, the ministerial Mercedes arrived and they reserved us the full day. They knew that there was our last day and we negotiated what we wanted on the protocol. Then they brought us to the airport. We say goodbye. And I told my son, listen, that's Africa. They know what they want and they continuously search and modify their program. They are very flexible. We have to accept if we want to be players in their role.
Yes, I guess.
So, my name is Frederick Kono. I'm from Ghana. I've been freelancing for African Hungarian News. I'm sorry I came very late. I want to ask one question on the scholarship, Hungarian Com. Is the scholarship, normally I'm from Ghana and I know much about the scholarship system. Most of the scholarship systems go to the elites in the African continent. So if you are offering this scholarship, will it go to the less privileged in the society, or the same elites, their children, their grandchildren will follow to get the scholarship free on taxpayers' money?
Well, this is a very rightful and very complicated question. But once a state is in a relationship with a state, definitely it's an interstate agreement. So we cannot go to Ghana and to go to the provincial cities or towns and to choose ourselves whom we will provide a scholarship. But we should rely on our partner, which is the government. In the case of Ghana, by the way, I think it's a good choice because Hungary has 2 foreign ministers at the moment. One in Budapest, one in Accra in Ghana, because the foreign minister of Ghana was born in Szeged. And she is speaking Hungarian. We just met her in the Africa Forum. So we hope that those scholarships are going to the right places. But we cannot really decide instead of our partner government that whom they will send. So this is unfortunately the life. If you are a private university, you can say to whom you give a scholarship because it's a matter of money. But once you provide state relationship, state scholarship, that means that the state is your partner.
I have a question. You mentioned we are seeking scholarships for Hungarian students in Africa. And my question is, have we found it? And can you tell me some concrete examples of this? Thank you.
Well, once you sign a bilateral agreement or a protocol or contract or action plan of education, this is what's happening now with a lot of countries in Africa. Definitely there are 2 sides of the coin. Not only you offer something to the other partner, but you wait something that let them offer. So we try to look for certain possibilities. Let's be concrete now. We are dealing with South Africa now, with Ghana, with Angola at the moment, with Algeria, with Egypt, with Morocco and Tunisia. Morocco, we are giving 100 scholarship to Algeria, also 100 scholarship to Egypt, also to South Africa. And we try to get in return something what? Let's say from the Arab countries, we try to focus on Orientalist studies, Arabic studies. That's a very, very convenient thing. You should never forget that the Hungarian Orientalist science was a very, very well-developed back to centuries and maybe last century also, but not now. Very few people. So that's why we have to provide more and more Arabic speakers. This is giving a possibility to send some people to study Arabic. In South Africa, in Ghana, in Angola, we try to find some very specific things the country itself can offer. Of course, Angola is a Portuguese-speaking country, so we try to find ways of education which can help later on for us to go to Angola with companies, to create people who are understanding of it. This is the same case with South Africa and so on. We try to be open-eyed what a country like Ghana can offer for us. We see we are in the process of digging in and trying to find, but definitely Hungarians, if they are ready to go, now will find the possibilities.
Okay, your question maybe there are some universities in Africa who have a relationship with Erasmus universities. So I think it is better to get contact with the universities, African universities. Some African universities have a relationship with Erasmus. And you apply for the Erasmus and you apply also for university, just you want to learn in one of the countries in Africa, in Kenya or South Africa, then you have to apply for the university. You have to see the relationship of inter-university few universities have relationship with Erasmus, and they give us a scholarship. Then you can finish your studies in Africa. Then this is one option. Another, to Ambassador, my colleague was asked. I think the Hungarian government should give a proposal to the governments of Africa, just as a proposal. This scholarship should offer for people who have no families or orphans or poor people who are outstanding. And just as he mentioned, the poor people, outstanding students who has no chance even in their country to study, they will not can get this chance. Maybe if it is possible, the government should offer in the proposal scholarship just to advise this scholarship should be our first priority to give.
Are there any more questions in the audience? Okay, we have to, let's see the lady first.
Actually, I have 4 questions. One is about the corruption in Africa, because one side, like on one hand, of course, it's a huge problem about poverty, but also about the governments. There is a huge problem of corruption, and for example, there will be elections soon in Nigeria, as far as I know, in the end of the month, and there were some attacks like the day before. My second question will be about developing in Africa, like you mentioned, Green Sahara program, and I want to know whether there are any programs similar to that, and about most of the OECD's and economic presentations divide Africa to MENA and to Sub-Saharan Africa. So divided to North Africa and Sub-Saharan Africa. And what do you think about that? Like, how is it from the point of view of Africa?
I think you mentioned very sensitive questions. Corruption always been a very hot pot of the African continent due to civil wars, due to problem of democratization or transition from military to civil society. But the truth is that they are fighting against it with more or less success. Problem is that the leaders are afraid of the military parts of the different or military powers of the given countries, and for that they are trying to secure their funds out of the country. So they are pumping out huge amounts, which has become very difficult since the European Union, the United States, and the other countries are controlling the money transfer under the terrorist law. So I feel some moderation, but still the corruption is a fact and a very serious problem. The young people will fight against it because they feel the problem when the royalty of the mining activity, the huge royalty of the activity is disappearing. It's a problem really, and I would say that there are positive examples. I think that for example, Guinea, the last government they elected just 2 years ago, made very important steps dividing and decreasing the number of military posts and just focusing on the civil control also. The tradition and the tribunal backgrounds is just slowing down this process. So I don't think that it's a quick change. But they are trying to fight, and they are asking a lot of help from the European Unions how to control this process. Green Sahara. Green Sahara is a huge opportunities, and what I have already presented on different European forums, including on the ACP forum here in Hungary, when Hungary was in charge of the presidency of the European Union. They invited me to make a presentation. I practically compared 3 different solutions. There is a Great Green Wall project initiated by His Excellency Obasanjo, the former Nigerian president, actually fighting with the lack of financial background. I went to check the track they already created several hundred kilometers in Senegal, for example, and you know what's happening? They are planting the special small trees, and when the military people and local civil workers are just going ahead, behind them the animals, including camels and all the very hungry animals, they are coming, taking the central part, the green part of those trees, and they become dead. Then in the evening, the ladies coming with the kup, with the machete, and they are just taking out the rest just to be able to cook the food. So I tried to explain to His Excellency, I met Obasanjo also, I tried to mention to him that if there is no chance to increase the productivity and self-financing, then this project is definitely lost. There is another project in Morocco. Angela Merkel is pumping 10 billion euro in the biggest green program, green energy program of the world, I can say. In Morocco, they signed a contract to build a 2,000 megawatt solar capacity plus windmills. But you know, those are automatically controlled by German technicians, and they are not bringing really any special possibility for the African people. Moreover, the energy itself is transported toward Germany, toward Spain and Germany on high voltage transmission line. So this is not really the green program Africa is requiring, is needed. Green Sahara program is integrating those programs plus giving something more with the new technology and bioengines. And we are working on cell structures. You can read on the internet much more. And I also brought some brochures in English and French, so you can study it. And with the cell structure, like a body is building up, step by step we are entering the Sahara Desert on 2,000 kilometers, producing a corridor toward the Chad Lake. I was invited by the Chad government to negotiate the problem, the environmental problem. You may know that the Chad Lake lost 4/5 of its water capacity. So this is a huge problem in Central Africa. But if we could draw the humidity toward the Chad Lake, then we will really moderate the climate and make Africa or resolve Africa vital questions. So you can read much more, and I will be pleased to supply, or my colleagues are here to give you details.
Yeah, sorry, does it have a real future? Are we talking about like hydrolyze that part when it's already like there's 40 or more degrees, 50 degrees during the day? So is it worth it, or does it have a future? Like, is it sustainable?
Can they survive this hot?
Yes, absolutely, but this is what we've been searching, and we carried the negotiations here, and we've been carrying the research work here in Hungary on the Hungarian Great Plain. I wanted to run to Africa to start the research work there, but my scientist friends reminded me that in Europe we have two very, very deserted places. One is in Spain, and the next, the Great Plain in Hungary, the Homokhátság, as we call it. So I don't need to run away and test the special species in the Sahara Desert. We started to test it in Jana area, and we got a wonderful result. The plantation went through on 51 centigrade. And the vegetation was almost 98% survival. So it's really a very good result. And also I got some other shock test. We were invited to the red mud catastrophe place, and we planted some as a Persi subcatastrophe as a red mud place, and we planted our trees there, and we lost only 10%. So this bioengine, which is a hybrid, a triploid hybrid, is really a fortune for the program. And I would remind you that it can bear a salty water. So we can dilute the seawater with two-thirds of fossil water, and this allows us to economize the Sahara water reserves. Very important approach. Moreover, cell by cell, as we are entering the Sahara, we make the depression. The reason of the cells is to create a depression. Depression to draw inside the wet water of the sea or the Atlantic Ocean itself.
Do you have any questions? Okay, we have two questions. So.
Yeah, on the solar energy, I think Hungary make very great steps. I was 4 years ago. I was first with solar energy. It's bankrupt now. Then at one of the summits, I approached someone who had a very knowledge on the solar energy. His presentation, I took it home. But when I came back, it's just like what my observation was that Hungarian entry into African market, they are always slacking. Who is going to? They acting like a touch and go. Like a medicine in Africa, if you have a toothache, you just put it and go. I followed this project for 4 years. Then the German came to Ghana. They opened this thing. Then I forget the whole thing. So my advice to the Hungarian businessmen or scientists who are in the field, because we know Hungarian science, they have a lot of prize in the Nobel Prize. So if you want to enter Africa, not the touch and go system. You follow it one touch, like you were saying. The Germans are siphoning the same solar project to Europe, not to the Africans. So my advice is you put this into writing and tell other scientists about it. It's just one touch. Don't say which company is there, which big guy is there. Hungarians are very good in everything, and small is beautiful. That's what we live, we that are living here, we found everything. Small is beautiful. For instance, the telephone battery being made in Hungary. If you go to West Africa, that's what battery you have made in Hungary. That's the best. It doesn't go out. It takes a long time before it slows down. So, thank you very much.
Would you like to respond in any way? We have another question.
Just very briefly, because there was another question still not responded to the sub-Saharan Africa and the MENA region. Now we look at Africa, of course, as it is. It was very interesting when we started to organize this Budapest Africa Forum. There were a lot of discussions how to call it, because definitely we had very good relations with the North African region before, and less developed relation with the Sub-Saharan Africa. But we never used the word of Budapest Sub-Saharan Africa Forum, because it would have caused a big headache for a lot of people. Africans like to use their continent for one single thing, Africa. But there are different regions. It's not by chance that economically it is divided, practically speaking, into 4 or 5 regions. The North African Economic Area, but the West ECOWAS, the West African, the SADC, the South African. So that's what we should look for, but we should consider the continent as it is. It's a sensitivity also.
We have another question, sir.
Yes, Mr. Bokor, 2 weeks ago there was this EU-Africa conference, and you mentioned you were a Hungarian delegate to this meeting. And can you tell me about the conclusions of this meeting? Thank you.
Well, it was the number 4 EU-Africa summit, and all African countries, nearly all, just 1 or 2 countries were not represented there, and all European Union countries were there on the level of heads of states or prime ministers. That was the original idea. But at the end, maybe 1/3 of the countries were represented by foreign ministers, and the other 2/3 heads of states and governments. The issue is that such symbolic summits, such symbolic meetings, we need them very much. We have to underline again and again that there is a strategic partnership between the 2 continents. Of course, one never can wait very, very concrete and up-to-date results as a matter of fact after the night of the closure of the conference. But to talk about which directions which we want to choose, which are the main items, the main concepts we should go on, this is very important. Human rights, economic growth, economic partnership, peace and security, prosperity and people, these were the main ideas of the summit. And if you go on the internet and you see the website of this summit, you will see that a declaration of the heads of states was accepted at the end of the summit, 62 points. So it's a very long declaration. I just have to mention that after 2 months of drafting the declaration, the last day we were sitting from 9 o'clock in the morning until 2 o'clock after midnight to finalize the declaration, because so many sensitive issues still came up at the last day. We should understand the way of thinking of the other side, how they think about climate change, how they think about human rights, how they think about corruption, transparency, good governance. So once we want to reach a real partnership, a chosen partnership, we should understand the other party, and a lot of compromises should be done. But a very important action plan has been accepted for the next years to come. And this is the most important point when we go to see migration, mobility, climate change, how to proceed together, because there is one word, and as Madame Zuma told at the conference, after maybe 20 years, we will see a totally different world, because now Africa is a continent of the young, and Europe is a continent of the elderly people mostly. So we should really think about how to benefit, both of us, from what we have. There, the young generation, here, the capacity buildings, there, the agricultural land unused, still the shortage of foods going on. So a lot of things to do, and I would say that the summit was all in all a success. And that's the way we should go on. So I strongly recommend to visit the website. There are a lot of interesting things if you read these 61, 62 points of the declaration.
If you have no more questions left, I'm just going to have to thank you all for coming out today, and most of all I have to thank our other guests for making an appearance here. I sincerely hope that you've all enjoyed this, and perhaps we will be fortunate enough to see you at our next event. So thank you again.